truth is a big word, but it's worth embracing and being clear about what we mean by truth and what it is we're looking for. So in my Buddhist days, I came across this teaching that's very common in all Buddhist traditions, which is about relative and absolute truth. So relative truth is, the truths about how we feel and what we think and, how we experience things. So, we experience the grass as green and other creatures may not see it as green. So that's relative truth. It's truth that's relative to our sense organs, our way of thinking, our way of experiencing things. And then there's absolute truth, which is what the spiritual search is supposed to take you to. And the absolute truth in the Buddhist tradition is the truth about well, let's call it Buddha mind. It's expressed differently in different traditions. And in other traditions, it's called God, it's called love, it's called light, Even there, you have like different expressions to it. Different ways of naming absolute truth. Because the moment you try to name it, it's already kind of eluding you in a way. So it's kind of useful to have these two expressions, but also it suggests that, they're quite different, that they're categorically different. And actually, I find a much more useful way of thinking about truth is in more gradual terms. It's like, there's truth that's, let's say, more at the surface. And then there's deeper truth. And then there's the deepest truth. So, and we kind of know what's more at the surface and what isn't. Like we kind of know that, say if we're angry and we accuse somebody else of having done this or that, we kind of know that this is a pretty superficial truth. I mean, in that moment, we think it's absolutely true, right? But we also know that it's linked to being angry. It's linked to a certain emotional state. Or say if we feel depressed, we think that life is so not worth living. But then we know that when we're not depressed, life feels very worth living. So it's like that can't be very absolute, right? As truth. That can't be a deep truth. That's a truth that's linked to certain states we're in. And in the same way, we probably all have felt in the past, we come from certain religious traditions, or we've been interested in certain religious traditions. So, in my own case, I grew up with very religious Christian parents. So, in that frame of understanding ultimate truths, deep truths. God was the deepest truth. In Buddhism, it's Buddha mind. In non-dual teachings, it's being or emptiness. It's like even there, you can see that the deepest truth is named in ways that are not as deep, They can't be because they're names. And the deepest truth can only be, it can't be named, And so in some Christian traditions, for example, God can't be named. And in the Jewish tradition, he can't be named because the name in itself makes the truth already less true. So that's really the deepest truth. Now, what I like about thinking of truth, like in terms of more gradual terms, is that we can rely on our own honest knowing how deep the truth is, because we have a truth sensor, we know what's not so deeply true and what's more deeply true. We just know that because that's part of the knowing that guides us towards the deepest truth. So when we use that, let's call it the truth sensor that we have, that's kind of like innate, We know we can kid ourselves, but sooner or later we know that we've kidded ourselves, right? We thought something was deeply true and then we kind of realized, maybe not so deeply. Maybe we really kind of fooled ourselves. So, that honesty that we're capable of saying, okay, how deeply true is this? That can then become our guide. And when we're able to tell what's more superficially true, what's more at the surface, we can also tell what's more deeply true. And that's really what we're looking for, we're looking for a sense of going deeper and deeper and deeper into truth, until we kind of hit on the real thing, that which can't be named. And that's really, it's like that then allows us to rely on our own knowing of how deeply true something is. So we're not going against us, we're actually going with the knowing that's already naturally there. So finding truth isn't something out there. It's something that's right here. And that's so important to realize, truth, you're capable of truth. You're capable of truth telling. You're capable of knowing how deeply or not so deeply true things are. We're all capable of that. And where does that capability come from? it comes from truth itself. And the more you use that, the more finely tuned it gets, you know, the more it gets developed. Like any natural ability, the more you use it, the more developed it gets. And then you also realize that the superficial truths, the more superficial truths, they're not so worth caring about. You know, they're just superficial truths. So, you know, yes, when you're angry, you believe that, you know, your friend is just not worth being friends with anymore. But then you realize, okay, you were angry and that was your truth when you were angry, and really, you know, it's not deeply true. And also then you can realize you still love this friend and you want to, you know, there's a connection you have, and the deeper truth is also always a truth about loving connection. So maybe that's the truth you come back to. And the deepest truth is that, of course, we're connected to everybody, you know, and everything, because it's all an expression of being. We are all an expression of being. But there's a kind of, you know, the deeper truth gets, the closer we get to connection. The more we get to the surface, the more we get to disconnect and separation. Oh, I'm different from you, you know, I would never do this. Well, yeah, that may be true superficially, but is that a deep truth about yourself? So when we come back to deeper truth, we always come back also to home, back to what we are more deeply, you know, what's alive in us more deeply. And that's how you find out ultimately who or what you are. You know, you trust that knowing that you have of how deeply true this is, whatever this is in the moment, you know, this belief, this truth. It's a very human way of coming to deepest truth. But you know, the human way, the way that goes with what's already there, it's maybe not a very fast way, but it's a very harmonious way, you know, because you're starting to trust yourself more and more in that. And that's also important. You're not going against yourself. You don't think you have to kill the ego to get to absolute truth. You don't think you have to kind of beat yourself over the head because you're still doing this or that, or you're still in the habit of, you know, no, these are just superficial truths about you. And they're not worth caring about so much, you know, they don't have to be killed, they just have to be seen for what they are. They don't have to be overcome, they don't have to disappear even, you know. We don't have to become not human to become divine. We're already divine. This truth is already here. So it's also an encouragement to you to trust that you have all it takes, you know. You don't need any special powers to come to deep truth, to ultimate truth. You know, you just let yourself be truthful over and over and over again. And that'll lead you by itself to the deepest truth.